On today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 now has its official streaming date, and it's just a couple of weeks. We'll talk about that. Also, Ms. Marvel, the Disney Plus MCU show, becomes the first Disney Plus MCU show to come over to broadcast television. We'll talk about those dates. Also, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 had both a really big yet kind of disappointing opening weekend. A Netflix actor who was a star of one of their big mega hit shows talks about how they and other cast members had to hold down second jobs and couldn't even afford cabs to go to set. All that and a whole bunch more. The John Campea Show podcast starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in our quaint little studio, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around so we talk about our favorite things in the world: movies, movie news, TV and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff. Not just giving you our opinions, but giving you information and context so you can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or completely different from ours. I'm joined today, of course, by Ray Ora.
Hey.
Jonathan Voico's over there.
Hello again.
Chris Carr is in the house.
Hi, guys.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for making this show part of your day. And yeah, it's actually, you know what? It's kind of a big week, give or take. You know, last week, next week, a couple big things I thought I should tell you guys about. First of all, a couple of days ago, it officially happened. The John Campea YouTube channel crossed the 300 million views mark.
Yay!
Which is, so happy us, and thank you to everybody. And it just seemed like yesterday that we had our big 100 million view party.
That was so fun.
That was a great night.
That was so great. And it was right before the pandemic, and it was the last time I had social interaction, it felt like.
It was right before the pandemic, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I've so many of the people I met that night ended up taking my classes later on, and I've gotten to know them and stuff.
Oh, that's right, because I met
really
a couple
cool.
of them afterwards too that say, I came to the 100 million view party, and then they started taking
That's how I met
classes
them.
at Speak Friend.
Yeah.
Which is Chris's company where she does voice acting coaching. You
We
guys
turned a year this week.
If you're interested in that, you should definitely check that out.
Thanks.
But yeah, we crossed three. It's funny because I kind of forgotten about it. And then a couple of days ago, I thought, where are we at? And I went to check it out. I was like, oh, look at that. We just crossed 300 million. So 300 million views, which is, I mean, nothing compared to some of the bigger YouTube channels, obviously. But for us, that's pretty cool. So thank you guys to everyone for helping us cross 300 million views. So that was something that happened last week. Now something is happening next week, which is the 20th anniversary of this little thing here. And if you can bring up that screen. Now you might be thinking, well, what is this? This is the very first post I made on my old website, The Movie Blog. It was 20 years ago. Now, this was officially posted on July 24th, so it's actually going to be 1 week from now, but it will be the 20th anniversary of when I started my little journey in online film punditry, when I made a post called Suddenly Seabiscuit Thinks It's the Matrix, which was the very first post I put on my movie blog was about a new trailer that had just come out for Seabiscuit. That was a period piece that for some reason used Matrix-style techno music in it. But whatever, I actually enjoyed the movie a lot. But yeah, 300 million views of the John Campea YouTube channel, 20th anniversary of when I started blogging about movie stuff. So it's kind of a big little period. And also, totally unrelated, I wanted to share this. So, you know, Ann and I go to Vegas a lot. We have a good time. And this weekend, we went to Vegas, and we went, which is why I wasn't on the show on Friday. That's when Chris did such a great job hosting.
Thank you.
So Ann
Did she?
and I,
I'm just kidding.
Ann and I
did great.
went
Yeah,
to
you did.
Usher is doing a residency this summer. So Ann and I decided to go to an Usher concert. And I love going to concerts, have a good time. But I'll tell you what, I'm not going to say it was the greatest concert I've ever seen. It was a great concert. But I have never seen an audience as hyped. Because I'm not, hold on just for a second, Jonathan, but I'm about to bring up a video here. You got to understand, the video you're about to look at was like 20 minutes before the concert even started. Okay, so bring it up. So this was Park MGM Arena. It was completely packed house. and they were just playing music over the sound system 20 minutes before the concert even started, and the whole place was like one giant dance party of everybody just on their feet, partying it up, dancing. It was the most hype crowd pre-concert concert I had ever been in. Or so if you were there at that concert at Usher the other night, it was the audience made it a great experience. First of all, I'm not the world's biggest Usher fan. I like Usher, just like everybody. But that dude's a showman. Like, he put on a show, like a really, really good show. So if you guys are going to be out in Vegas at any time in the next couple of months, try to go check out the Usher show, because the audience itself makes the concert worth it. And Usher himself putting on a great show is just kind of bonus. All right, guys, with all that kind of stuff down, let's actually get into some things here. We're going to start with this. You know, in a summer of and a year of some big high profile projects kind of ending up falling a little bit flat, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is one of the ones that really stands out. That despite the environment that it's in and all this kind of stuff, the movie still managed to get right up close to that $850 million at the box office mark, which was incredibly successful for what it was, especially given the year that we're in. Well, now we have an actual official release date for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Disney Plus and their official social media Twitter put out, "Crank up the volume. The Guardians of the Galaxy are coming home. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 streams on Disney Plus on August 2nd. So that's a little over 2 weeks from now, that Guardians of the Galaxy will be available to everybody to just stream on Disney Plus.
Ray can relive the horror.
Relive all the animal cruelty that
Try in
Ray
the
is
comfort
so,
of your own home.
yeah, Ray is so looking forward to seeing that. He just wants to watch it to hate on High
He's
Evolutionary.
he's
some
gonna
more.
watch that last part.
Yeah.
Yep, just High Evolutionary getting his ass kicked.
You know what happens on August 2nd, right?
What's that?
It's post Ray's birthday.
Mutant Mayhem is released in
Whoa.
theaters.
Is that the official release date for?
August 2nd, yeah.
We're seeing it before then, though, right?
Yeah, on
Okay.
the 29th.
But so multiple big things going on for Ray on that day.
Game day.
I wanted to ask you.
Birthday week.
I'm pretty excited to go back and watch this again and have it on Disney Plus, and I can watch a few more times. But you know, with Guardians 3, I think most people agree Guardians 2 wasn't as good as Guardians 1. I mean, a lot of people still really loved it. I certainly liked it.
My
I just didn't
husband
like it.
loves it. If you have dad issues, you love Volume 2.
I can absolutely see that.
Yeah. The dad issues or him loving it, or both.
Or both, could
Yeah.
be. But Guardians of the Galaxy 3 came out in a period when comic book movies in general, especially the DC ones at the time, were really struggling. People were kind of finding in this period of time that the comic book movies had maybe become a little lackluster, people weren't going out as much. This one came out, managed to do the trifecta. It thrilled the critics, it thrilled the audiences, and it had box office success. As we're now looking at Guardians 3 heading into now its streaming phase of its life on Disney Plus, why was this film able to succeed so well when others, both DC films and something like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, were struggling to find that kind of success on the 3 levels that Guardians seemed to knock it out of the park with? What made Guardians 3 so special?
Short and simple, it's good. It's
Yeah.
good. That's the big difference. I do want to clarify real quick because I got a bunch of very concerned DMs this morning. I am okay to talk about movies and things on this show because the AMPTP does not pay us.
Right,
Does
that's
not
right.
give us any money or anything. So I'm safe. It's okay. But it's because it had great writing, had fantastic writing, and the chemistry of this cast is just beyond.
Right.
They all work so well together. They are so wonderful. You get that actual sense of camaraderie. You understand love and loss with this group in particular on such an intrinsic level that I think a lot of other films just haven't been able to have that kind of bond. And I mean, the MCU does have the benefit of age. All of these people have gotten to work together for many years in different projects, side projects, interconnected things with all the Avengers events and everything. Whereas, you know, the DCU, or the DCEU, I should say, has had a lot of start and stops, has had a lot of kind of knee-jerk reactions to, okay, well, we
Right.
don't like how the way this film is going, so now we're going to pivot and do this here. Because, I mean, when we saw the very limited amount of Justice League characters pop up in Peacemaker, that was great. That was
Yeah.
a wonderful interconnected moment. And I was looking for more of that. And I think that's what Guardians really nails is it's a comic book story, sure. And it takes a lot of comic book storylines, the High Evolutionary, a lot of the things with Rocket's origins and everything ripped right from the pages from Marvel. But it, one, really makes the source material works for this medium. It works very, very well in film. And two, they elevate the material because it is so heartfelt. It is so beautifully written in a way and shot in a way where, Ray always brings up that scene of Rocket looking at the other raccoons.
Yeah.
Right.
And
yeah,
how just
yeah.
beautiful that moment is. And you find yourself caring about a raccoon and a whole bunch of other raccoons and sobbing about them. I have never cried harder in my life in a movie theater, I think, truly, than this movie. Than when they started screaming about, Teefs and Floor have to go now. I could not stop crying and I could not get out of it. I had to just just eat my snacks that I stole into the movies and try to gather myself. But I think that's really what it comes down to is people like good stories and they like good storytelling, and spectacle isn't enough. You can have really cool, wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey shit in your movie, but if it's not executed well and there's not heart and there's not quality storytelling, then we're all going to bounce.
Ray, this was a movie that you particularly were like. You were quite thrilled with the movie. Like, what is it about Guardians that in this particular year, too, when a lot of the comic book properties have struggled, that have seen it succeed? And what do you think about coming to streaming now in just a couple of weeks?
Oh yeah, I'm very excited to see some parts of this movie. This I might forward through a couple. This is the first movie I think that Marvel, James Gunn, especially his send off, which is like the best way to send off
For his time at the MCU.
Where it took me through all the emotions you could possibly feel in a movie. It was all mixed throughout. It was like I was exhausted after watching this, to be honest, because it was just sad and then happy, sad, But this is probably my favorite Marvel movie of all time. Still,
yeah,
right
you
now,
loved
I
it.
still
You
think
had
it
such
is.
a good time with it.
The Rocket story, I'm glad he finally got the spotlight. I mean, I've been waiting to explore him. Adam Warlock wasn't too bad to me. I mean,
I thought he was wasted.
I
I love the movie. I love the movie. I just thought that was one of the big, especially
Yeah.
with the talent you had playing him. I just thought it was kind of that's my one big knock on the movie.
Drax was great. Everyone was great. Everyone had their little spots in there. There's favorite parts for everybody in this, for every character
Yeah.
in this film. So I do thank James Gunn for giving the Marvel fans this movie before he goes on.
Oh,
to
and
DC.
and Marvel needed it. I mean, especially coming off of, look, their Disney Plus offerings have been hit and miss. I think,
And
to be
that's
kind,
generous.
that's a good way to put it. It's hit and miss. They were coming off of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which was a kind of a letdown. I mean, they really needed Guardians to come out when it did. So, yeah, big thing for that. And coming out August 2nd on Disney Plus, be able to go back and rewatch it for free now. All right. With that down, guys, let's stick on the topic of the MCU here for a second. I was just mentioning the MCU Disney Plus shows have been very hit or miss. Well, one of the shows that was, in my books, one of the ones they absolutely crushed and did amazing with. Too bad they couldn't do that with a lot of their other ones. But the one they really did a great job on was Ms. Marvel. Ms. Marvel, to me, is probably the biggest pleasant surprise of a Disney Plus show I've seen so far. I mean, my wife started buying Ms. Marvel comics as soon as they started coming out, so I knew a little bit about the character, but I think I went into the series with about as much of a clean slate as you could, and I fell in love with this show immediately. And it wasn't about the flashbang. It was about great family dynamics, great connection between the characters, wonderful characters that you could just get on board with. I just adored watching Iman Vellani on stage as Kamala Khan throughout the whole thing. Every moment she's on screen, she was delightful, charming, wonderful, all that kind of stuff. Now, not surprisingly, it wasn't the highest viewed of the Marvel MCU shows. Nobody knows who she is. So not surprisingly, it didn't get big numbers, but it's one of the very best things Disney Plus has ever put out. I honestly only think WandaVision has been a better show on Disney Plus for the MCU. That's it. I think it's been better than everything else they've put out. That's not really hard to do considering the lackluster nature of their shows, but still love it. Well, we've now got the Marvels coming out, right? That is going to have Iman Vellani. Big screen character that unless you have Disney Plus, you don't even know the character. So this has been interesting. Disney has decided to make Ms. Marvel the first Marvel Disney Plus show that they're actually going to put on broadcast television. They're going to put it on ABC and run the whole series in just 2 nights on ABC. This comes from the folks at The Direct who write the following. According to an official Disney press release via Laughing Place, Ms. Marvel will be the first Marvel Studios produced series to make its ABC debut on cable television. The entire first season of Iman Vellani's superpowered adventure will air on the network, coming in 2 batches over 2 days. Episodes 1 through 3 will air on Saturday, August the 5th, and episodes 4 through 6 on Saturday, August 12th. Each night, the series' 3-episode block will start at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, running through 11 p.m. I love this news, and I love it for 2 different reasons. Reason number 1, it puts, well, no, I'm going to say 3 different reasons. Reason number 1, it brings the spotlight back to Ms. Marvel. This was an underappreciated show that not enough people watched, and I get why maybe a lot of people didn't decide to tune in. It just, a character never heard of, all that kind of stuff. But the fact that the spotlight's being put back on Ms. Marvel, I think is great. Reason number 2, I love this news, is that it's now going to expose this show to an audience that may not have had even the opportunity to watch it. Not everybody subscribes to Disney Plus. So the very fact that this is now just going to be on over-the-air broadcast television gives a lot more people the first opportunity to even watch this show. So I absolutely love that. The third reason that makes it a smart thing is that on top of putting the spotlight back on a character that deserves it and introducing the show to a new audience that may not have had a chance to see it, is the fact that they need to start doing some things to promote the Marvels, right? Because I ain't hearing, while I think the trailers have been good, I am not hearing people buzzing about the Marvels. Just don't. Now, it's going to do okay at the box office. The first Captain Marvel movie made over $1 billion, so it'll make some money, but they need to get people talking about this. And so this is a very simple way to give a little bit of extra promotion to that. Because listen, if you want people to come out to see the Marvels, I don't even know, you got these 3 main characters and a lot of people are pointing at 2 of them and saying, I've never even heard of these 2. Photon, or whatever they're going to call her in the show, and Ms. Marvel. Never even heard of them. All right, put it on ABC television, give it a little more. Look, is this going to be the thing that breaks the Marvels wide open? No. But it's at least a smart little move. So for that and other reasons, I think this is a good move on their part. And it's a simple, inexpensive one for them to do. Anyway, Chris, you heard about this. Are you surprised that this is like the first Disney Plus Marvel show they're putting on to broadcast television? And do you see any potential drawbacks to this? What are the upsides? What do you think?
It does make sense to me that this is the first Marvel show because it makes sense for ABC and its content. It's a very familial-driven show, and we've seen things that kind of have that almost sitcom feel, right? Like at Abbott Elementary, thrive on ABC. So of all the Marvel properties, this makes the most sense to me. I think it's great. And if you're not a big comic book person, yeah, you don't know Ms. Marvel. I will say, though, from her launch in 2014, I mean, she has become such a staple, this version of Ms. Marvel, I should say, too.
Right.
The Kamala Khan one. She sold, I think, like over 75,000 issues of her first issue. Basically, she was in the top 105 of comics that year in 2014 and became this huge linchpin in Marvel book comic books. But your average moviegoer isn't going and picking up everything at the comic book store. Although I wish you guys did. You should. Go to your local shop. It's so fun. So I think it's a smart move to get more audiences involved. Here's the double-edged sword here, though, because I had been reading all of actor and writer Twitter lately, and we are going to see some interesting things with numbers when it comes to showing how residuals work on actual network television versus streaming, right? We are going to see hard, concrete proof of there's a big pay disparity here, and we need to work on that. Let me find this tweet real quick. I'm so sorry. I thought I had brought it up. Basically, one of the writers on the show had asked for proper pay for this and tweeted about it. Hey, this is really, really great, but I was brought on to update episodes and still have not been paid. This is from AC Bradley. Hey, WGA West, let's make sure Disney Studios and Marvel Studios pays the Writers Network residuals. Despite significantly rewriting all episodes and the WGA mandating I receive writing credit on 3 episodes, I was only paid a weekly rate and never paid script fees. So while this is great potential money-making exposure, all that kind of good stuff for Disney, it's also exposure of a bad kind that can show everyone, hey, these people still aren't getting paid. and we can show the huge difference between network and streaming right here, right now. Also, you guys, I know a lot of people are also canceling their subscription services right now to try to support the writers and actors. Don't do that. We need that data. We need your data to prove that we're important. So keep those things, keep watching them, and tell them all the time about how much you love original scripted content. All right? That's what's really, really great. Things like Ms. Marvel, because we can't have these great shows without great writers.
All right, guys. With that down, we're going to take just a second here before we go on to talk about Mission Impossible at the box office. Speaking of streaming and residuals and actors' pay, one of the actors from one of the biggest hits ever on Netflix is talking about how they had to have a second job while the show was going on. We're going to get to those things and a bunch more, but before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Mint Mobile. We want to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. From the gas pump to the grocery store, your utility bills and favorite streaming services, inflation is everywhere. Seriously, make it stop. Thankfully, there's one company out there that's giving you a much-needed break. It's Mint Mobile. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know that ever since I switched to Mint Mobile, I've been saving almost 70% a month over my old phone plan. For people looking for extra savings this year, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. By going online only and eliminating the traditional cost of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All of their plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Mint Mobile for being my mobile service provider, and they should be yours, and for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys. With that down, let's get on to this, shall we? Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 opened up this past weekend, and the movie is just absolutely phenomenal. I absolutely love it. Other than Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is my favorite movie of the year. I mean, it's just got everything. Thrills, intrigue, twists and turns, terrific action, good laughs. I mean, it's just a wonderful, wonderful movie that I had an absolute blast watching. And it just had its opening weekend. Now, it's a tale of two numbers. We made a short video about this on our YouTube channel earlier. And by the way, for those of you listening to our podcast, we do have a YouTube channel. Just go on YouTube and search for John Campea. You'll find our YouTube channel. And every day we put up some short videos in there. We did one about this one earlier. And I mentioned that, you know, the Mission Impossible opening weekend box office is a tale of two movies. On the one hand, it had a big global opening with over 70 markets. All right, so 70 markets, and its global opening weekend was somewhere a little over $200 million, $230 million. Now, that, of course, is not what its actual opening weekend number is. Opening weekend number is always the domestic. And while it had a good opening weekend, enough to take number one at the box office, it wasn't as big as they were hoping, because the movie made $56 million on opening weekend. And that just kind of puts it on par with the other Mission Impossible movies. Take a look at this image here. So Dead Reckoning Part 1 made $56.2 million, but that's not as much as Fallout made in 2018 with $61 million. Rogue Nation in 2015 made about the same at $55 million. Ghost Protocol in 2011 made $29. Now, we got an asterisk beside that because it actually, on the weekend before that, had a limited release opening, so it would have made a little bit more. Mission Impossible 3 back in 2006 made $47 million. So they were kind of hoping that Dead Reckoning Part 1 would come out bigger than that and come out larger, especially when you take into consideration that this was a very expensive movie to make. Now, it's not that Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie were as financially irresponsible as the people who made Fast X or anything like that. But they had a lot of COVID stuff going on, and they actually like, rented cruise liners to house their cast and crew to keep them separate from the general population to try to keep them protected from COVID and all this kind of stuff add up. But still, at the end of the day, the movie ended up almost costing $300 million. And they spent a hefty marketing campaign of over $150 million marketing campaign. Long and the short of it is, this is a movie that's going to have to make somewhere in the $700 to $750 million range to break even. And it may or may not do that. Because not only did it just make $56 million, but this coming weekend, it's got two big buses headed towards it called Oppenheimer and Barbie. Oppenheimer is supposed to make somewhere between $50 and $60 million opening weekend. And Barbie is projected to make anywhere from $80 to $85 to $100 million opening weekend. So that's going to be a challenge for this. Now, I've had some people writing into me today to say, well, John, you just don't get it. People don't have money to go to movies this year, right? And I do get that. Inflation, the economy, all that kind of stuff. But that argument would hold a little bit more water if no other movies were making any money. And they are. Let's just look at 2023. These are all movies that have opened this year, right? Mario Brothers made $146 million opening weekend. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse made $120. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which we just talked about, made $118. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania made $106 million opening weekend. The Little Mermaid made $95 million opening weekend. John Wick Chapter 4 made $73 million. Fast X made $67. Transformers Rise of the Beast made $61. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny made $60. Creed 3 made $58 million. Then in 11th spot there, Mission Impossible made $56 million. Now, I mentioned this on the video earlier, but I should mention it again here too. I can hear some people going, wait a minute, John, I'm a little bit confused. I thought I saw some numbers saying its opening weekend for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 made $80 million. It didn't. It made $80 million over its opening 5 days. All right. Like Little Mermaid made $126 million on its 5-day, but its actual official opening weekend was $95 million. The actual official opening weekend of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is 56.6. So like all the other movies on this list would have had bigger numbers if you included their entire opening 5 days, but its official opening 3-day was $56 million. Can it make enough to break even? I'm not entirely sure. If we didn't have that Barbie or Barbieheimer. If we didn't have the big Barbieheimer weekend coming, if that was going to be another 2 or 3 weeks off, I would feel better about its chances. And I'm not saying Mission Impossible will not break even. I'm not saying that. I still think it will, but it's going to be a harder, track to run to get there than I thought it was going to be initially. Anyway, Chris, you see these numbers, over 200 million globally, but not enough to only get 11th place for opening weekend this year.
Yeah.
Is it going to break even? Hey, listen, traditionally, Mission Impossible movies, they've had good legs.
Yep.
Right? The one opened to 61 million, not great. Made over 700 million is great, right? So it's going to have better legs than some. Tom Cruise loves his running.
Yeah. His movies have stamina.
But it's running into Barbie and Oppenheimer. I don't know. What do you what do you make of this big jarbled mess of numbers?
I do think it's going to break even because they do well. They usually have some longevity to them, much like Tom Cruise and his knees that aren't quitting. These movies don't either. So I feel like there's hope here. The thing that really bums me out, though, is unlike other movies we've seen this year where the production costs were ballooned because of just ridiculousness. Right. So much of this was because Tom Cruise, McQuarrie, everyone involved really took the COVID protocol so seriously.
Yeah, they did.
There were so many stories too about, Tom Cruise coming out and talking about how it's so important for safety to be the number one thing on set, whether it's from COVID or doing stunts or anything like that. You have to feel safe at work. And he was so passionate about it. And I really respect this whole team for taking that all so seriously and making sure that everyone was safe working on this, because a lot of times the film and TV community ends up having many marginalized people who have, compromised immune systems, all kinds of stuff, and getting sick on a film set too, it ruins a whole movie. It really does. It shuts down production. It costs money. It costs people their livelihood and everything. So I always appreciated how serious he took everything. So it's such a shame that that production budget got so high because of trying to just keep everything afloat, trying to get this movie made while doing it and doing it right. Obviously, there's also huge, bananas, ridiculous stunts here that need a lot of money to back them too.
Right. Yeah.
So and I'm sure insuring Tom Cruise has to be just woof. That has to be so much money. if Heidi Klum can insure her legs, Tom Cruise being insured for that stunt off that cliff must be horrifying. So I do worry about it making money. I have so much confidence that this will break even, and I have so much confidence that they'll actually go through with the filming, finalizing this and moving on with Mission Impossibles. I don't think I'm as nervous about things like the Fast franchise, where it's, oh, this is circling the drain. This is,
well, yeah, it's got a pattern now of diminishing
of going down.
returns, the
And
Fast franchise.
Dead Reckoning, for all accounts, wonderful film, getting great reviews. People are really enjoying it, unlike Fast, unlike Flash, unlike those things that were getting more negative reviews. So hopefully people are just taking their time to see this. But as far as making big bucks, I think that ship has sailed.
Let me ask you a question that I'm struggling with here, because to me, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, for me, second best movie of the year. I love this thing. And it's, despite the fact that it takes place on a global stage, it is a quintessential American movie.
It
right?
is.
The action hero, the big explosions, the big stunts, right? The thing I'm a little bit perplexed by is with a movie this great, with a franchise that has been really strong for the last decade. Let's take a look at this again. Bring up these numbers. Why are American audiences not as interested? Because, I mean, you look at this, almost twice as many Americans went out to go see Little Mermaid on its opening weekend than were interested in going to see Mission Impossible. More Americans were interested in going to see, or triple the amount of Americans almost, wanted to go see a Mario Brothers movie. More Americans were interested in going out to see John Wick than seeing this. More Americans were interested in seeing Transformers Rise of the Beast.
Yeah.
And like, to me, other than Spider-Verse, that's at the number 2 spot there of 120 million, to me, and I'm only speaking for myself, my own subjective opinion, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning is better than all those films on this list.
Damn.
Why are Americans not as interested in going to seeing these movies as all these other ones? No idea.
I mean,
I was just like,
I mean, it is
know.
international locations. It's not really taking place in the United States at all.
I
So
don't.
that may appeal to like
But
foreign
now they did
audiences.
Mario
Yeah.
Brothers.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying it may appeal to foreign audiences, but why
Yeah.
it doesn't appeal to American, I'm not sure.
Every time that graphic comes up too, I keep going, oh, Billy Eichner's movie made so much money, and get really excited. Not that, Bros. Super Mario Bros.
Yes. Bros made 146
I
million.
would have loved that. The movie's great. People should have seen that movie.
But I don't think rom-coms get that
No,
kind of
they don't. I'm wondering, honestly, I'm wondering too if it's because people don't understand how timely this movie is as well. Yes, it's stunts. Yes, it's espionage. Yes, it's bombastic action. But also, the heart of this movie is exploring AI and how it can affect people on such a global scale.
I don't think the general audience knows what the movie's
Yeah.
about.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
And I see what you're bringing up here too, John, and I'm not going to like take the winners, but I thought this would have boosted it, what you're looking at
Well,
right
yeah,
now.
bring this up. Like, here's Top Gun Maverick, right? People love Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
I thought this would have
Top
boosted
Gun
it.
Maverick made $126 million opening weekend. Like, I thought, like a lot of people, that on the heels of Top Gun Maverick and everybody loving it and Tom Cruise, being one of the saviors of cinema, I don't know why that didn't translate over. And again, remember, let me acknowledge again, this is a franchise that traditionally will have legs after a modest opening weekend for a blockbuster. I'm just perplexed, though, how Top Gun Maverick gets 126 million, and then a movie, maybe some people disagree with me on this, that's fine, a movie that is better than Top Gun Maverick, another Tom Cruise movie that I think Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning is better than Top Gun Maverick, and I love Top Gun Maverick. I think this movie should also get a nomination for Best Picture of the Year. why didn't the people who supported Tom Cruise in Top Gun Maverick not come out to see this? That's an even better movie.
What's the advertising campaign for this been like? Because I feel like we're in such a bubble here. I feel
Well,
like
they spent over 150 million on the
okay,
advertising
because
campaign.
we always know about what's coming out because it's kind of the thing we do here, and we live in LA, and there's billboards and shit everywhere. But the rest of the country is just getting bombarded with this too, or?
I mean, across the country, they certainly had a bigger advertising campaign than, John Wick Chapter 4
That's fair.
or things like that. I'm a little bit perplexed.
Before Top Gun came out and we were talking about it, like the idea of them doing what would you consider Top Gun? Like a reboot or more like a sequel, right?
It's a
Sequel.
It's a sequel. Yeah, it's properly a sequel.
I remember saying on the show, like, we haven't had a good fighter jet movie on the big screen
Well, that's
in
true.
a long
Yeah.
time. And I said, this is something with all the comic book movies that are coming out. This is like a breath of fresh air, like just the whole thing. Like, and it actually performed way better than any of us thought,
Well,
actually.
it's far better than Tom Cruise thought it was going
We
to
actually- I remember
nobody
a-
expected it was going to make that much
I
money.
remember us actually asking on the show, like, will this hit $1 billion? I don't think any of us said, we all said probably not.
No,
But
and
it did.
anybody who says that they predicted it like a month or two before the movie came out is lying. They
Called
were
it.
not.
Yeah, I called
This
it.
this Mission Impossible, I don't know whether it's because people feel if they haven't watched any of the other ones, they could go into it and watch this one. I mean, I have you guys to ask.
That is a good
Yeah,
point.
that's
You
a good
know,
point.
and also the last one before this, Fallout, I heard a lot of people loved, like it's their favorite one out of all them. How can you top that? Maybe people are like, that's my favorite. I don't need to see any more Mission Impossibles because Fallout was
I
so
think you
good.
make,
But
make
did
a
you-
good point though, because just real quick, if they're all about the same range of opening, then that's the same audience, and this is 6 films in, so people aren't going to go into the 6th film not seeing.
But to that question though, let's look at Fallout. Fallout made almost $800 million at the box office.
Yeah,
People saw Fallout,
Yeah.
right? So it's not like it's like so in asking a question like, if the last Mission Impossible movie was like Top Gun, if the last Mission Impossible movie came out in the late 80s or early, 1990s or something like that, yeah, maybe you could make the argument that a lot of the audience out there hasn't watched Mission Impossible movies. But this one came out in 2018, made almost $800 million,
Yeah,
so
but-
people have seen it.
But you
Total,
know what?
though.
This one also had the benefit of Tom Cruise hanging off a plane, taking off.
But this has got people the benefit of Tom Cruise throwing himself off a cliff on a motorcycle.
Yeah, but if I were to watch one, if you put both these stunts together, I'd be like, I'm watching the one with the plane. That's insane right there. I don't know.
Anyway, guys, it is a tale of two things. I mean, it's overall its numbers are promising for its first week, like over 200 million, but I just don't get why American audiences are not embracing this movie. It's fantastic. It's got a history of success. It's Tom Cruise coming off of Top Gun Maverick. I'm a little bit agog and aghast. This movie's great. Go out and see this movie, everybody. And I get it. A lot of people saying, John, you don't understand. Like, the economy's hard and all. I understand that. But why are all these other movies making tons more money, at least on their opening weekends, right? I'm a little bit perplexed by it. It's going to be really interesting to see
I think
how
has
it holds
legs,
up
though.
against Oppenheimer and Barbie next week.
It is growing. It is, to be fair, it is growing. I mean, the domestic is now up to 80 million.
Right, but
So-
that's the 5-day
No,
total.
I know.
right?
No. Well,
that's
I mean,
the 5-day
'cause yeah.
total. So
I'm
it's-
just saying, I think it'll get another 15 million a day or so, and it'll get there.
I'm curious to see what kind of second weekend drop off it's
Yeah,
going to have
that's scary.
with Oppenheimer and Barbie coming out. But it's
Yeah.
got great word of mouth. I mean, the critics love it, the audiences love it. It's a great movie, guys. Check it out. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this. So we all now know there is a actor strike going on. Actors and Writers Guild strike are both going on at the same time. And it has brought the industry to an absolute standstill. But it's bringing our attention to a couple of issues that maybe, we as film fans and movie fans and TV fans don't talk about enough. I think a lot of us just make the assumption that if an actor is in a famous movie or TV show, well, they're rich and they're set for life if you're in a big hit TV show or a big hit movie. But we are learning through the strike and having our attention brought to the fact that that is not necessarily true. And one of the biggest sticking points. None of the other members of the AMPTP will say this because I don't think they're wanting to throw their fellow members under the bus. But I'll say it. The biggest studio that is the biggest problem is Netflix. They're the biggest ones. And I have heard rumors and whispers, and many others have as well, that behind the scenes, the other members of the AMPTP know that Netflix is the biggest problem. Of course, that's not to say they're the only problem. There's plenty of blame to go around everybody. But Netflix is a particularly big issue. And it's really getting highlighted today with a couple of interviews and a couple of statements being made by members of the Netflix mega hit show, Orange is the New Black. One star in particular, Kimiko Glenn, who you can see here. She's also, by the way, the voice of Penny Parker in Spider-Man, the Spider-Verse movies. And she's going to be a voice in the third one as well, with Penny Parker returning. But she was one of the stars of Orange is the New Black. And she has mentioned some things that really are going to shake a lot of people with that have that assumption that, hey, if you're an actor in a famous show and whatever, you're set for life. Well, this is what Kimiko said. She goes, and I warn you, she likes to bring the filthy in her dialogue. I deserve to get paid for as many fucking streams as that shit gets. Talking about Orange is the New Black is essentially the rallying cry, courtesy of Kimiko Glenn, of the 2023 Hollywood strike. Now, she goes on to say, Orange is the New Black star Glenn posted a TikTok video alleging a pay discrepancy between actors on the hit Netflix series and a lack of residuals on future streams. People, listen to this, people were bartenders still. She's talking about people who were working on Orange is the New Black. People were bartenders still. People had their second job still, Glenn said. They were fucking famous as shit, like internationally famous, couldn't go outside, but had to keep their second jobs because they couldn't afford not to. We couldn't afford cabs to get to set. And to drive the point home, she says this, my tits live on in perpetuity. I deserve to get paid for as many fucking streams as that shit gets. So implying she did some nude scenes in Orange is the New Black. To me, it gets really stunning to me. Look, hey, let's take the issue of residuals aside. And I made a video last week about the problem of residuals, but let's put residuals aside for a second. The fact that you can be working currently on a show that is a big, massive hit, but you're not even getting compensated enough to not work a second job while you're doing it, and you're struggling to even pay your cab fare to get to set to do your job. That's alarming. Look, when a lot of us think of actors, we will think of the Robert Downey Jr.'s. We will think of the Matt Damons. We will think of the John Krasinski's or the Denzel Washingtons. None of them have to take second jobs. None of them have to worry about getting a cab to set. But they do not represent the vast majority of working actors. And the reality that a lot of these working actors face, listen, I'm not going to, I will tell you this much. In stories told to me by our own Erin Cummings, I mean, she was on a hit show and had to struggle just to pay the rent when she had to go to a location to be on set, and she had to have a place to rent to live while she's doing it. And it was hard for her to pay that rent. I won't name the specific show or the companies involved. I'll leave that for her to describe someday. But when you hear stories like this, like especially a show that was as culturally impactful, as huge, and as big as a success as Orange is the New Black, and the people working on their show had to struggle to even figure out how to get to work, there's something wrong. There's something fundamentally wrong here with this. Now again, I am going to be very unpopular and in the minority on my thoughts on residuals and things like that. That is a system that needs to be fixed to work for everybody. But just the fact that while you're working on the show, you got to be a bartender at the same time. Anyway, Chris, you are a member of the Screen Actors Guild. You are on strike at the moment. And I'm sure, you probably don't resonate as much with stories of Tom Cruise flying his private helicopter to set or what like that. But an experience like Kimiko is probably more representative of the average actor's working experience in this. You read her story. What hits you about it?
What's wild is Kimiko was on 44 episodes of a hit Netflix series, garnered 3 SAG awards for Best Ensemble, and still could not make ends meet.
Right.
And we are fed this lie, and so many I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit. So many workers are fed this lie in any industry. You are one job away from financial stability, nay, financial success. And
That's what lottery ticket buyers get
Yep.
told all the time.
And that's what we're told as workers. You're just one booking away from this. You're just one booking away from it. I talked about this on Friday. I've never qualified for healthcare through SAG. Never once. Because I've never made more than $10,000. And I have done national commercials. I have done a buttload of video games. I have done a lot of work. And I'm very fortunate. I'm what is considered a working actor. And I do not get qualified for insurance because I don't make more than $27,000 a year. That's not anything anyone can live off of. And because of all these different agreements that people have bought into too, we do get paid on the day for a lot of things, right? But with an ultra low budget, the lowest tier of pay is about $200 a day, unless you enter into an entirely different agreement that waves more of your wages away. So when you think about it, if you were working on set and you were only working for several days, and they're grueling days. They are usually a minimum of 12 hours, usually more. And I know there are going to be people out there who say, I work 12 hours a day all the time. This isn't a suffering contest, you guys. We all shouldn't have to do this. We shouldn't have to work without breaks and all day long just to make ends meet, and barely then. You shouldn't have to either. But you usually work for a limited amount of time, right? You have your shoot schedule. Maybe if you're lucky, you're shooting for a couple months, but then you're done. And because you were working on that show, you maybe weren't taking other jobs elsewhere. You maybe weren't doing this. If you're doing commercials, which is a whole other entity, right? If you're in conflict with another brand, you can't do 2 car commercials in the same time when they're both running on air. So you have to be pretty choosy with the work you do too, and think about the longevity of how you're going to get paid. And residuals have always been the thing that's been able to sustain actors and have a working class actor, somebody who makes $40,000 a year. It's not asking much. And for somebody on this level who has been on Broadway, she was in Waitress. She played Dawn in Waitress. She has a incredible voice acting career. She obviously is part of a huge cultural zeitgeist show. To struggle like this, what hope do the rest of us have, honestly, if things stay the same for your average working actor who's just trying to pay their bills? It's outrageous.
I got to ask this. Because I think a lot of television fans and movie fans are like me, like we're sitting on the outside. And again, most 99% of the working public and people who go to jobs, they never get residuals on any of their work.
Yeah.
But set that aside. How does a place like Netflix, and by the way, again, Netflix is not the only guilty party here. I'm just saying, we're just using them as the example, have a globally recognized mega hit show and don't pay the people who star in it enough as they're working on this show? Like, how do they even get away with that? How does a scenario like that even come into play? And is that the same? And this isn't a rhetorical question. I honestly don't know the answer to this. Has that been a common experience with actors as they've worked on on network television shows in the past, like working on a hit show, like, I don't know, I'm going to go back, whether it's Family Ties or whatever, a CSI show, like, has literally a non-livable wage been paid to actors in stars on network shows too? Or is this a fairly new phenomenon with the streamers? How do you see that?
It's a newer thing, honestly, because that strike that we had with the writers at the same time in the 1960s really pioneered a lot for film residuals in general. So network television, once we were able to track that, right? Once we were able to see how many households are watching this, how many people are doing this, the actual ad revenue that was coming in from everything, that is how residuals were tracked and how money was divvied out to people and performers, right? Because that's the different thing here is if you are an accountant and you do accounting work for somebody, you get paid for that day, right? You're not getting paid when you're not doing accounting. I get that. But if you're an actor and you have, as Kimiko put it, her boobs are on display, you're watching them, you're out there, you're getting that, and people are paying for that subscription, paying for that, you're still part of that work actively, right? So that's one of the issues there. Streaming, what keeps being fed to us is, well, we don't know how many people watch. The fuck you don't. You absolutely know how many people are watching. You absolutely know. And that's why ad revenue is being brought into a lot of these streamers too, so they can be making more money and everything. But then you have to be transparent about what you're making with all these people. That's why we've also seen so many tweets with writers, with actors too, saying, hey, here's what I made on network television. Here's what I made on streaming. The math don't math. Figure this out for me. An actor from Reservation Dogs posted about how little they make each year how quarterly they're making cents on the dollar for all of their streams. A similar situation to Kamiko here. I would highly recommend people check out too. There's a great article that came out in the New Yorker about 5 days ago that talks about how Orange is the New Black was the kind of first hint of the rotting nature of, and that's their language, of what was going wrong with streaming, of how all of the cast got invited to the CEO of Netflix's home. And it was just already this big issue of, wait, how much is this show making? What did you just say? And why are we making this little? So it's been going on for a while, but we haven't had the opportunity to address it head on. I used to go to casting workshops where casting directors point blank would say, oh my gosh, why would you want to work for Netflix? You'll make no money. So it's been known for a while.
All right, guys. Well, listen, with that down, we are now going to go over and take questions from our YouTube channel members. Again, if you guys didn't know, we have a YouTube channel as well. We have a great group of supporters over there known as our YouTube channel members. And every day, we ask our YouTube channel members if they have any topics or questions they would like us to discuss. And we're going to go take those now. But before we do, we're going to take another moment here and thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Bird Dogs. We want to take a second and thank the sponsor of this video, Bird Dogs. You know, as a guy, there's only two things that are important to me when it comes to fashion: looking good, and even more importantly, being comfortable. And that's where our sponsors, Bird Dogs, come to the rescue. Offering everything from pants like stretch khakis, joggers, and sweatpants, to shorts like gym shorts and swimsuits, and even great looking and comfortable polo shirts. Bird Dogs, like their stretch khaki shorts, are designed to fit slimmer through the thighs and legs, giving you a truly sculpted look. Bird Dog shorts fit way better than regular shorts that are made of a stiff, restricting cotton. You see, Bird Dogs fixed this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki, but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. And that's just one of the reasons that by wearing Bird Dogs, you're gonna look good and, more importantly, feel good. So guys, go to birddogs.com/Campea for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/Campea for a free Yeti-style tumbler. Use code Campea. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. And thank you to our friends at Bird Dogs for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, let's get over to our channel member question and topics. Chris, what do we have up here?
From Fangblaze. I know you don't want to do spoiler reviews for show episodes by episodes anymore, but have you thought about doing one once the whole show is over? Secret Invasion is an example.
That's not bad. By the way, I have not shut down the idea of ever doing an episode by episode after show again for any shows. We're waiting for one that's going to be significantly popular enough that that a good chunk of our viewers actually watch that show. I'm not convinced a good chunk of our viewers watch Secret Invasion. Like, for instance, when Game of Thrones returns, yeah, we're going to do an episode by episode recap of that. But when Last of Us returns, definitely. So we're going to have to wait for something like that. It might not be a bad idea to do one for Secret Invasion after the final episode airs. That might be all right. Like, Ray actually got caught up on Secret Invasion.
Yeah, you were doing your Campea Plus weekend.
Yeah,
That's
the
right.
relaunch of my favorite streaming service.
Campea Plus.
Campea Plus Max.
Campea Plus Max. So you know what? That's not a bad idea. You know, I think we will do that for Secret. After the finale airs, we'll probably do one big open spoiler discussion for the series as a whole. That's actually a pretty good idea. We'll probably do
get that artwork going.
All right. What's next?
From Red One Real Talk, we got a new trailer for The Creator, and my goodness, I am hype. Sci-fi fans will be eating good between this and Dune 2.
I'm looking forward to it. I don't think this movie's going to make any money.
I want to see it so bad.
Here's the thing. I think the trailers look interesting, but I don't believe the trailers are going to appeal to the general audience. I hope I'm wrong about that. Because if it's good, I think good work should be rewarded with good results. And, you know, I'm a big fan of John David Washington. I want to see where he goes. But I'm watching these trailers, and I think these will appeal to cinephiles. But appealing to the cinephiles is not going to make you money. And I don't know that the average... Like, when I've seen trailers for it in the theaters, I don't hear any buzz in the theater when the trailer plays. And there are trailers to worse movies that get good buzz because the trailers are well put. And I'm just not sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think this thing's going to make money?
I don't understand why people aren't hyped about it. Every time the trailers come on, I've nudged whoever I'm sitting next to, and they're like, eh. This is my favorite genre, reluctant, hot, adoptive dad. I love these kinds of movies, and I always watch them. I don't
That should be a
understand.
category at the Oscars.
It should
hot.
be.
How did you phrase it?
Reluctant hot adoptive dad.
Love that. The whole new category.
It's you got David Harbour for Stranger Things in there. You've got Pedro for Last of Us. You got Adam Driver for 65. Come on, let's go.
Whole new category.
I've never
Okay.
even seen a trailer for this yet, so that could be an issue.
Oh, that could be it too. Because it looks really cool. And yeah, it looks it's iconic sci-fi.
You know what it
So
feels
cool.
like? You remember Children of Men?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of feels like Children of Men. I'm not saying the story doesn't look the same. It's got a Children of Men kind of feel to it.
I can see that.
So,
Meets like AI.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
From Big Cookie. I binged Beef in one sitting this weekend. Great show. What was the last time you guys sat down and finished an entire season of a show the same day?
That's difficult to do. Like an entire season in one day is hard to do. Like I have been blowing through Suits. Like I got turned on to Suits. I'm already into late season 4 in just like 2 weeks. But it's almost impossible to do. Like unless you literally don't have much going on.
No. Unless it's a Disney Plus series, you
Yeah.
can binge like 3 or 4 of those. And
Yeah,
Yeah,
now if it's like
exactly.
a 6-episode season,
Yeah.
or if you were like Ray, where you were dog sitting and house sitting at my house for 3 days, and all you've got is time to watch a bunch of stuff while you're watching the
Aw,
dog.
shows with
My
puppies is
dogs love Uncle Ray.
So Silo, that's one I almost binged the whole thing. I watched episode 2 all the way to the end. So I already watched episode 1. So I guess that's not really a binge because it's not really the whole series.
I did Silo in 2.5 days,
Yeah. So
but it's difficult to do it all in one day.
I watched all of Skull Island, but that's an animated series, so it was very quick and easy to do. And then the last time I did that with a actual show was The Bear season 1. Almost did it with The Bear season 2, but the Feast of Seven Fishes episode was very triggering for me, and I needed to take a break. I
Yeah.
had to walk away.
Yeah. That is like, I'm having PTSD
Yeah.
watching this episode because it's very, very. But then you get shows like Ray's pointing out, some Disney Plus things like the Ms. Marvel series. You're going to be able to get through if it wasn't on network television, you can get through the entire Ms. Marvel series probably in about 4.5 hours, maybe 5. Yeah, and on ABC it's going to be 6 hours, and that includes commercials. So that's easier, but other stuff is a little more challenging. All right, what's next?
From Kayak. Hey, crew. I got a thing for rewatching movie franchises in chronological order. So sometime next year, when Aquaman 2 will be in our rearview mirror, I plan to do just that with DCEU. Is it something you guys like to do?
It depends on the franchise. I mean,
I do it with
used
Lord of
to-
the Rings.
I used to
I
do,
did that
well,
this
yeah, with
weekend.
Lord of the Rings. I used to do that with the MCU earlier in the MCU. There's just way too much MCU.
Yeah, now it's huge.
Yeah.
You're over 30 movies, and so that's just not feasible anymore. But I will definitely, like when Guardians 3 came out, like in the month leading up to it, I did a rewatch of the first Guardians and I did a rewatch of the second Guardians. When there was new Potter coming out, Anne would go back and watch some Potter. And oh my God, sorry, I'm going to get sidetracked here. So it seems like whenever we're in Vegas, if you turn on the TV, one of 2 movie franchises will be playing on their networks. Either Harry Potter movies will be playing or Twilight movies will be playing. So we turned on the TV as we were getting ready to go out, and Twilight was on. I don't remember which one it is. It might have been the first one, might have been the second one, where they're playing baseball. The family's playing baseball. I can't remember
First
which one it
one.
is, right? Now, you gotta
Twilight
understand,
boy.
my wife loved Twilight.
She loved Twilight
Right.
boy.
And a lot of people did. A lot of people today will lie about the fact that they loved it, but that franchise made billions of dollars. And Anne was one of the big fans. She was, oh, Twilight, I haven't watched it in forever. And we watched about 5 minutes of it. And Anne was like, oh my God, how did I watch this? It's like, and I sat down and I watched a little bit of it. And I'm like, this is unspeakably bad. Like, this is so
Pulled over
bad.
your
It
eyes.
has so many talented people in it.
Yes.
And because I didn't watch it, I believe, till the pandemic. And I binged those.
Why?
Who's
And
the guy who played the
I was
dad?
already sick.
The actor's name's Peter, and it starts with the V.
Oh,
The
I
guy who
can't
played
remember, but
the
he was
father
like-
of the vampire
Yeah.
family. Peter something or other. He was really good. I saw him in a number of things. He's great.
He's a phenomenal actor.
Ashley's whatever her name, one of
Green or something.
Ashley
Ashley Green.
She's
She's
wonderful.
terrific.
Yeah.
I really
Kristen
like her.
Stewart and Robert Pattinson have gone on to be tremendous Academy level actors.
Yeah.
I love
So
Taylor
bad,
Lautner.
though. So
it's
bad.
Terrible. It's so bad.
Anyway, all right, what's next?
You're impossibly cold. Evan Colburn 732. Hey, John and crew. Saw Mission Impossible 7 without having seen a previous Mission Impossible since the third. I was a little curious what happens to some of the characters and who some new players were, but it didn't take away from my enjoyment. And that cliff jump shot had my stomach in knots.
You know, one of the great things, I've talked about this all the time. Other than the quality of the movies, the single biggest factor for the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe was that for a long time, every single chapter of the Marvel Cinematic Universe was a valid entry point for a new audience member. You could jump in and watch Iron Man 3 without having watched any other movie in the MCU and you won't feel lost. You could watch Black Panther without watching any other movie in the MCU and you would not feel lost. I even had a friend who watched Endgame as their very first Marvel Cinematic Universe experience, and they didn't feel lost. That's changed today, but go back to Mission Impossible. You know, I've talked to people who Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 was actually the first Mission Impossible movie they've watched, and they didn't feel lost. There's probably some nuance you missed. Probably the importance of this character doing this had a significance that maybe went over their head. But overall, as a movie experience, they did not feel lost. They never felt at any time that they couldn't follow along with the movie. And that is key and important. And it's one of the reasons why I think it's so good. All right, what's next?
From Wild Haggis. With actors not able to do publicity for movies due to the strike, which upcoming films do you think will suffer most from the lack of publicity? Blue Beetle is one for me.
Well, I mean, it's going to be hard to say because let's face it, Blue Beetle was never on track to make despite the fact that Ray has dubbed it the $1 billion beetle.
Oh, that was a long time ago. I'm much smarter.
Now it's a $2 billion beetle.
That was, wow.
$2 billion
How many years
beetle.
was that ago? That was so long ago.
But I mean, I don't think Blue Beetle was ever going to make any money. And I don't know that its marketing and the actors are going to make much difference, but it certainly ain't going to help. Listen, I'm going to be making a separate video about this in the next day or two about the actors' strike is a lot more of a screw job to the studios than the writer's strike is. They have way more power and leverage than the writers do in this, and I think you're going to see them use it. But that aside, yeah, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem for some upcoming movies. But I'll be honest with you. I really don't think the actor strike is going to last all that long, not because of the resolve of the actors, but because the actors have a much bigger boot to kick the studios in the balls with than the writers do. They are way from a bottom line dollar value in immediacy. Like writers went on strike, everything just keeps running. Everything's still going, movies still in production, scripts are on the shelf. You're not going to feel that for a while. The day the actors go on strike, Deadpool 3 shuts down. The day the actors go on strike, Venom shuts down. This is going to kick the studios in the place that they actually feel it, which is their checkbooks. And it's going to hit them harder, and it's going to hit them faster. And they, unlike the writer strike, they cannot allow this actor strike to go on as long. And you're going to see some capitulation. Listen, it's a negotiation, right? This is a scenario where actors and studio can both win. They can come to an agreement and they're going to both win. It's just that the studios have a lot more leverage over the writers than they do over the actors. So they're going to have to make a deal. And I think it'll happen sooner rather than later. Chris would know better than I would on this, but as an outsider, I just think a deal has to happen. They cannot afford to let this drag on.
I'm hoping, because it's the rumor that most people have heard circulating, and most of my friends in production have said too, is that trying to keep this through the fall, trying to push to New Year's potentially, with the whole idea of we're going to freeze them out, we're going to make them lose their homes, so they have to accept whatever deal we have brought to the table. I don't think that can happen, and I think that quote was leaked to the press as a fear-mongering tactic.
I do
But,
too.
yeah.
I think
Oh, yeah,
that was them-
100%.
That was them thumping their
100%.
chest.
Exactly,
But that was
because-
about the writers.
Well, and,
They can't do that. They can't do
well,
that.
and they
with the
tried to do
actors.
it with the actors too, though. Of, oh yeah, we can figure it out. There's so much talent out there and everything. Well,
No,
now
there's
it's
not.
well, yeah, there's plenty of talent who will never be allowed to
not
join
union, yeah,
SAG-AFTRA
not union.
ever again.
Not truly available
that
talent.
will not get to do this whatsoever.
How does
Because
this affect like ads, commercials?
Oh, so it doesn't actually affect them too much. One of the things that can be an issue is if you are doing something that's a tie-in to a movie or something
Right.
associated with a studio.
Especially if it's like, buy this Ford, and it's the Blue Beetle Ford.
Yeah.
Like the
or
new
whatever.
Progressive commercial I just saw is tied in with the new Barbie
Barbie,
movie.
yeah.
Where
Yes.
we just insured Barbie's house, right?
So
you couldn't do those
technically,
commercials.
You technically can, is what the language looks
Yeah.
like. However, the union encourages you to not take that since you are not working directly with the studio. I feel like that's such a weird gray area that that's something where most actors are going to say, hey, pass, because this might not be worth it in the long run if it affects my good standing with the
So
union.
what I'm thinking is this goes beyond then producers, because if major corporations can't market, there's going to be a big push.
Well,
yeah.
most commercials don't have movie and TV show tie-ins, though,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, it
The
should
majority
be.
don't.
Right.
No, but I'm saying if the actors are then like, well, but we'll mini strike against this too.
Exactly.
You
I
know.
can have some more leverage
All
as
right.
well.
What's next?
From Amin, have you watched Foundation Season 2 yet? Great first episode, though I did feel it started to get a bit complex and overcomplicated at parts.
I haven't started it yet.
Have
That's
you
on-
watched Foundation? Yeah, that's Foundation. I have not started watching season 2 yet because that is one of the, there's 5 or 6 shows a year that Ann and I got to watch together. Foundation's one of them. So we haven't started watching that because yesterday, again, we were gone all weekend in Vegas. We got back. So the first thing we did was we had a couple friends over and we watched the first 2 new episodes of What We Do in the Shadows. Oh my God, that show's so good. Like last season, I still really liked it, but it was not their strongest season last season, but they are right back to form. The first 2 episodes of this season were great. So, but yeah, we're going to get started on Foundation here pretty quick.
That's Apple TV, right?
Yes.
When Foundation is Isaac Asimov, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a complex dude.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Welcome to Foundation. Actually, I was surprised. Like, I loved season 1, but I was really surprised how palatable season 1 was. They really found a way to take some really complex stuff and make it very tellable as a story.
Okay.
So we'll see how they do it in
That's a
season 2.
hefty novel. Whew.
All right. What's next?
From Joey Hawkins, 1994. Who do you think will be the first wrestler turned actor to be Oscar nominated? For me, it's John Cena. Thanks and bring on the filthy.
I'd go Batista.
I would say that wrestler turned actor has not emerged yet. But out of any of the ones who have, I'd say Batista.
Yeah, me too.
And again, I'm
He has
not
the most-
saying he's Oscar caliber at this point.
No, but he
I
has the
love
drive
David
to get
Batista.
there.
Yeah, I love Dave Batista. I think that dude is great, but he's not an Oscar caliber actor. But neither is John Cena. Both have become guys I really enjoy watching, but neither are Oscar. So if you had to pick one out of the existing crop, I'd say it's Dave Batista, simply based on Blade Runner 2049. But my real answer is that wrestler turned actor has not yet emerged. That's my thought.
I feel like John Cena has the potential for that trajectory just because of what they've done with Peacemaker. I could see him getting an Emmy nod at some point, depending on what they do with the material.
I think he's got great comedic timing. I just don't see him as a great thespian.
Well, and comedy is not particularly rewarded too
Yeah, like
in
for
award
instance,
season.
this sounds weird. I could see Dave Batista being dropped into a production of Macbeth. And in the right role, I could see him being dropped in there and not sticking out like a sore thumb. I don't see John Cena having the ability. And I say this as a John Cena fan. You know how much I love Peacemaker, but I don't think John Cena is a guy that right now you could pluck and drop into like Macbeth or something like that and not stand out like a sore thumb. So I don't know. It's 6 of one, half dozen the other, I guess. All
I
right.
do that with a lot of actors. Say, I can't see you doing theater.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a harder thing.
Yeah.
Theater's a harder thing. All right.
Theater.
We've got time for a couple
Theater.
more. What's next?
From Esteban Reyes. If a good movie like Mission Impossible could make a big splash at the box office, could we be seeing something similar to Oppenheimer or Barbie? I mean, it's hard to believe both could surpass expectations.
Well, I mean, listen, Oppenheimer is projected for 50 to 60. I think it'll hit it. Barbie is projected from anywhere from 80 to 100. It'll hit it. I just don't know what it look. We gave the historical context, right? We looked at the history, the opening weekend box office for Mission Impossible. I thought this one would exceed that on the momentum of Top Gun Maverick. And obviously I was wrong.
I mean, what's the closest franchise to Mission Impossible? As in, like, it's like a spy.
James
Bond,
James
007
Bond,
Well,
movie.
I looked it up.
Bourne the Bourne
Yeah.
movies.
The No Time to Die, its opening was 55 million. So maybe it's just that's just the area that this genre hits.
I do think that also it was overinflated, the estimate. So that it's like you get this huge overinflation and then it underperforms and it just seems so terrible. I kind of felt like it was going to be around 70 million.
Well,
which was under
to
still,
be fair,
but,
the studio's projections were 60. Right?
Oh, I was reading like 250 at one point. I'm like, come on.
Well, yeah, but remember that was global. Nobody ever said it was going to be 250 like real opening weekend
Yeah.
box office numbers.
That'd
Like
be
they were
insane.
talking about global. Remember, whenever you're talking about opening weekend boxes, you're always talking about domestic because one of the movies that we talked about on our list opened in 21 markets. One opened in about 30 something.
Right.
Mission Impossible opened in 70 markets. So you can never compare them. That's why you always just do domestic numbers. And you're talking about opening weekend. Whenever you're talking about total box office, you're always talking about global total. Whenever you're talking about opening weekend, you're always talking about domestic because that way you're having accurate comparisons. I just really thought coming off of the heels with the popularity of Tom Cruise right now, the huge mega hit of Top Gun Maverick, listen, it opened in line with the other Mission Impossible movies. I just really thought this one would be bigger. We'll see what kind of legs it has, though. All right, what's next?
From CJ Rebirth, happy 13 years to Inception, my
Wow.
favorite non-Batman Christopher Nolan film. Highlights for me were Leo's scene with Elliot Page and when Cillian Murphy finds the paper windmill in the safe.
I mean, that movie, I think that was the movie. Look, we already had Memento. Not everybody saw Memento. I loved Memento. Then they had his Batman movies. I think Inception was the movie that was an introduction to a lot of people about how Christopher Nolan thinks in terms of storytelling. Right? And you can see the influence of Inception on pretty much every Christopher Nolan movie that came after that. That there is a style and a flow to the Christopher Nolan storytelling method that really we got introduced to in Inception. And it's still a movie that to this day, a lot of people debate the ending. Like, what's with the top? Like, a lot of people still debate that. Listen, amongst a lot of people, it is people's most favorite Christopher Nolan film. Other than the Batman movies, which obviously has a lot of following there, but it's I can't believe it's been 13 years.
Yeah.
Ugh. All right. What's next?
From Jay Danvos, Barbie and Oppenheimer will be my number 99 and 100 movies
Wow.
of the
Wow,
year.
nice.
Streaming and theaters combined. So here's my top 10 favorites of the year. 10, Flamin' Hot.
Great.
9, Cocaine Bear. 8, Sisu. 7, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. 6, Joyride. 5, John Wick. 4, Creed. Creed 3. 3, Spider-Man Across Spider-Verse. 2, Mission Impossible. 1, The Flash.
Wow.
Enjoy, Jay.
I really loved every movie on your list except Cocaine Bear. I didn't think Cocaine Bear was great. I had great moments. Definitely had some great moments. But I definitely, and by the way, guys, woo, boy, is Joyride bombing at the box office. Ain't nobody going to go see Joyride. I get it. There's no movie stars in it that anybody recognizes. It's an R-rated raunchy comedy. I get it. But oh my God, guys, go watch Joyride. Please go watch and support
so
Joyride because
good.
it's great.
The 10 million now.
For a fan base that constantly cries, "These original movies." That's because when great original movies come out, none of y'all go see it.
Yeah.
Joyride is fantastic. Go see it. All right, what's next?
So funny, so filthy. Major K25. Congrats on 300 million views, John. Been with you since 2011. What a ride it's been. Let the good times roll.
Thank you so much. And yeah, to specify, because I should mention this, somebody mentioned to me as a comment on my social media, said, oh, wow, 300 million. I was there for your 100 million view party with AMC. When I say 300 million views, that does not count my time at Collider, AMC, anything. We're just talking about the John Campea YouTube channel.
Get it right.
Yeah, no, but I understand the confusion. I understand because we had a 100 million view party for AMC, many years ago when we did all that. But yeah, our 100 million views was just for the John Campea show, and now we're just talking about in time of being the John Campea show. But thank you for that, man. I appreciate that very, very much. All right, what's next?
From Red One Real Talk, are any of you feeling overwhelmed by the sheer amount of shows, games, and movies being released lately? It's getting harder to relish a good piece of content when there's all this chatter about the next big thing to check out.
It is at the same time the great thing about being an entertainment fan today and the downside of being an entertainment fan today, right? The good side, there is so much good stuff out there. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff too, but there is so much good stuff out there. But there is so much that there's a bunch of it you're never going to get a chance to get around to watching. So we are going, I mean, it's FOMO, but I mean, there's going to be stuff that we miss out on. It's just the reality of it. I mean, listen, a lot of people say to me, John, like you do YouTube movie channel, you should be watching every single movie every month. And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't watch every movie every month. I just have too many other things that I do with my time. And I'm trying to balance that out with having some time to watch TV and some time to have a life and all that kind of stuff. And I don't watch every single thing that comes out. And for the average television and movie fan, that's like amplified by 5, right? So it's the great thing about today's entertainment, and it's the hard thing about today's entertainment. All right, one more question. What do we got next?
Okay, from James Freeman. Do you think WB made a reckless decision putting up Barbie against Oppenheimer, where its premium screens are going to be limited?
The forecast right now is that Barbie's going to make between $80 and $100 million opening weekend. Doesn't sound reckless to me. And look, the good thing too is we've talked about this before. One of the great things about this weekend, and I've got my tickets to see both. Actually, Ray, we're going to go see Barbie on Wednesday.
Yep.
Then we're going to see Oppenheimer on Thursday. But one of the great things is that these are two diametrically opposed different types of movies. I mean, it's not like putting Mission Impossible out against Black Adam, right? Yeah, one's a comic book movie, one not, but it's the action thrill seeker kind of movie demographic you're going after. We are talking about a dark biopic historical movie about the atomic bomb and Barbie. Right? There's going to be a lot of people going to Barbie who were never going to go see Oppenheimer. And there's a lot of people who are going to go see Oppenheimer that were never going to go to see Barbie. And then there's a bunch of us who we are really excited about seeing both of them.
I think it's a big. These two movies, I've never seen two movies be memed together online and with different generations like these two. That I genuinely feel like it's going to be a lot of people, maybe not opening weekend, but a lot of people are going to see both eventually.
No, you've seen some great stuff. Like it started with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Right? Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie, like last week or 2 weeks ago, even though they knew they were competing against Barbie and Oppenheimer on their second weekend, Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie went out, bought tickets, went to go see Barbie and went to go see Oppenheimer and put up these social media posts saying how great Barbie is and how great Oppenheimer is and all this kind of stuff. Then we saw Greta Gerwig talk about how amazing, I almost said Top Gun, how amazing Mission Impossible is, and Oppenheimer is Christopher Nolan at his best. And, you know, we're seeing a very supportive group of movies saying, hey, we got some great movies out there right now. You guys should go see all of them. Come see ours, go see theirs. It's actually a really nice thing to see. I enjoy this.
This is kind of a weird comparison, but it's like when we had the new late night hosts take over and it was collaboration over competition. And it was just, we're not in the late night wars. Although, you know, like there is a pizza party contest. Supposedly there used to be where it was, we had the top ratings, so we're getting pizza tonight or stuff like that. When it became Colbert, Fallon, and Kimmel all kind of working against each other.
They would do these cross sketches and stuff like that.
Because it had always been so, you know, tenuous and there was so much infighting between all of those different networks. And it was, we all get to be on late night. Isn't it cool? We all the same.
Yeah, never going to explain that inside joke to our audience.
I love that filmmakers are doing that too, though, because you go see one movie, you'll learn about other movies. I don't know why we haven't been doing this, but the merch for Oppenheimer and Barbie, oh my God, I need like 7,000 of those shirts. They're all amazing. Just the fake posters. Ugh, I love them.
Yeah, I saw a video on online. I actually sent it to you, John, on Instagram if you haven't seen it yet. But they literally like intercut Oppenheimer and Barbie together. It's the best I've seen so far.
I have not seen that.
It's in your messages.
I'm excited for both of these movies. I really am. And so guys, keep your eyes open. We're going to do our Barbie out of theater reaction on Wednesday, our Oppenheimer out of theater reaction on Thursday. And guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Big special thank you to all of our YouTube channel members. Number one, for being YouTube channel members and supporting us, but also for sending in your topics and questions and giving us some great fun things to talk about. I want to thank the people in the room with me, Ray Ora, Jonathan Voico, Chris Carr.
Support unions.
Once again, where can people go if they want to get in on this voice acting lesson action? Where do they go?
Thank you so much. You can go to speakfriend.com. We just celebrated 1 year of being a fully functional business, which is very exciting.
Yay.
Logan got to quit his day job and only do
Wow.
this, which is very exciting. That's all thanks to
Awesome.
you guys. And he actually has a upcoming breath and dialect beginners class coming up where you can learn about the Cockney dialect. So email us if you want to take part in that.
Speaking of breath, you know, I was saying we put on the TV and there was Twilight.
Yeah.
During the commercial breaks, one of the commercials would be that was the network advertising that they're doing a Twilight marathon. And the commercial, the first half of the commercial was them taking Kristen Stewart as Bella, taking deep breaths and just, it showed all these quick 1/10 of a second clips. And
It's so much
was-
weird breathing and hair pushing.
oh, it was
Well, yeah,
so good to
and,
see.
and blinking like I don't understand.
All right. And I'm John Campia, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.